A vague disclaimer is no one's friend. This podcast will look at episodes in relation to Buffy and Angel as a whole, and therefore contains spoilers for the entirety of both series. If you haven't seen all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel the series, go and watch them before you listen to this. Remember, you've been warned.
The hardest thing in this world is to live in it.
That's why there's us, champions. We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be.
The Earth is definitely doomed.
It's Tuesday, so it must be time to return to the Hellmouth. We're going through the Buffyverse episode by episode and a look back at Joss Whedon's iconic shows. I'm Emcee, and I'm here with...
This is Andie.
This is David.
This is Jan.
And this is... That's River Tam. She's filling in for Logan today, who couldn't be here.
Logan has unfortunately lost her voice, so she's not able to record with us. And we've been told, she's with us in spirit because we'll be talking about a lot of the stuff that she wanted.
I do want to give a shout out to Logan because the reason she lost her voice is she was at a fundraiser for the Girls Rock organization last night and was working with the kids and singing and talking really loud, and she raised a ton of money for that organization.
Yay,
so I think we need to give her a clap. She's
Yay.
a really great advocate for girls and women. She's amazing. So we miss you, Logan.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Hopefully you'll be on the next episode. So today we're talking about What's My Line Part 1, which is episode 9 of season 2. And it was directed by David Solomon and written by Howard Gordon and Marty Noxon. And this is a landmark because, it's the first time that Marty has turned up in the Buffyverse. And she will lay her stake, as it will, on Buffyverse. I think. Does she write? She writes up to season 7.
She's there, pretty much the whole time. And I think she started on the show at the beginning of season 2, and it took a few, for her to write episodes. But
according to her, her commentary says she was she was working on the show, but this was her first script, and she'll write the next episode by herself.
Yes.
And David Solomon, this was I believe his first time we see him as a director, and he follows through most of it. And according to Marty's commentary, he was actually in the post-production department before they promoted him to director, and then eventually he would just go on to be a director on the show quite frequently. And I think he's one of the better ones, one of the better directors on Buffy. So.
And but in terms of co-writers, this was co-written by Howard Gordon, and this is the only thing that he's done in the Buffyverse.
Right, which is strange.
And I have to be honest. I mean, I love Marty, but I think that it shows that What's My Line was written by a first-time writer in the Buffyverse and somebody who only did one episode.
Huh.
Yeah, and also Howard Gordon was also listed as one of the consulting producers. I know he was like a producer of some sort. I saw his name on the credits later, and I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah, Marty says he was on the show for about half a season.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. I think I like the way this is written. And we can talk about that a little bit more as we get into it.
Yeah, it's not that I dislike these episodes. There's a lot of stuff that I like in them, but maybe it's because this is the first two-parter. And we'll just, I think, 3 episodes away from this, we'll get, the quintessential Buffy two-parter.
Right. I remember when these came out, though, really liking them. And they've got sort of, I think it hits that sweet spot of, I want to watch some Buffy, but I don't want to be super sad right now. Let me throw on What's My Line Part 1 and 2. I think there's some and I think Marty really gets the voices of these characters and stays pretty consistent with their characterization throughout her run on Buffy. So
yeah. Well, she really forms them. If it's not Joss who forms them, then it's Marty. She is absolutely in the number 2 spot. And actually, the one thing I realized when watching this episode is wow, this episode really kind of sets peak Buffy. We've talked all season about, School Hard, this kind of establishes this. But What's My Line is where it's okay, this is season 2 really taking shape because we get the establishment of several relationships that will become iconic throughout the Buffyverse, and the whole Slayer lore is turned on its head and will never be the same. So
and looking slightly ahead, one gets the impression that maybe they kind of said, okay, we're going to give you this really momentous thing, but you're going to pay for it right afterwards, because the next 2 episodes are Ted and Bad Eggs.
I like Ted, and we'll talk about that in a few weeks when we get there. But
yeah, I was going to say I like Ted too. But we'll talk about that in the future. But Bad Eggs, not so much.
Oh God,
we should definitely make sure to have Logan in on the Ted episode, because I know she has some very strong feelings about it.
We'll definitely make sure we do that. And you can disagree with me then, David.
Oh no, I actually don't dislike Ted that much, but it feels like such a drop from this. I think it just suffers by comparison.
Yeah. I mean, this was these 2 episodes were their November sweeps. Yeah. So like the 2-parter with the November sweeps, and I think, they go on hiatus pretty quickly after this because this is like November.
Mm-hmm. Right, and back in those days especially, you actually had like sweeps and television seasons that were very important in terms of bringing in audience and everything else, which you don't really get now because we've gone to more of like the seasons never really stop. So in those, so for the past, the way the things were, that's when you got like your big punches in November and then in February again.
And I think we'll get big punches again in February.
Right, exactly, because that's what they did at Sweeps Month.
Mm-hmm. I mean, not our February, because it's not February.
Their February. Right.
Their February. I'm speaking from the future, and and we know that in the February of 1998, they will be February. That sentence made no sense at all, but
okay, well, let's at the start of this episode, like, one of the first things that jumped out at me is that there is absolutely no In Every Generation opening.
Wow, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I actually missed that, but you're right.
Oh, that...
I don't think it's the first time that it's happened, but it's the first time I noticed it happening. Where, because, I mean, it's... By the end of the
it's
season,
appropriate here.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
I was going to say, I think also just because there's so much packed into it, they may have wanted to cut it just for time.
Yeah. No, I mean, we start directly with the career fair aptitude test, which I have so much problems with all of this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, I know that they're just trying to make it interesting for the audience, but taking tests in the lounge area while talking to each other, I know it's just a fucking aptitude test, but what?
No. Exactly.
Like, I mean, we did this kind of shit when I was in school, and, like, they would, like, I don't want to say preemptive, but they would preempt the class, basically.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, everybody is going to take this test, and then we're going to give them to the guidance counselors who are going to want to kill themselves.
Yeah, I don't even remember taking a test, but I do remember being dragged into my guidance counselor's office for a private one-on-one for him to tell me what he thought I should do with the rest of my life and what schools I should or shouldn't go to and, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it was not in the middle of our cafeteria or our lounge with everybody yakking at each other.
Yeah, I mean, if they had wanted to keep the lines, they could have had it set immediately after the test where, they're all coming out and they're like, what the hell was up with that test? And it's like, did you come down on the side of shrubs? And it's like, I went to shrubs.
And those personality and aptitude tests have not specifically shrubs, they have so much stuff about liking flowers.
Really?
Like, yes, like last time I took one, because I had a neuropsych evaluation for some specific issues I've been having, and like, seriously, that thing has 3 questions about flowers and florists. Would you like to be a florist? To which I say absolutely no, because my parents are florists, and I know I'm bad at being a florist. So,
The one thing this scene has given me is that line, "That's between you and your God,"
mm-hmm.
because anyone who knows me will know that every time somebody asks me that kind of question, I will bring out that. I will bring out that "that's between you and your God." And
I've heard you do it.
Yeah, I know. That's because I do it all the time. It confuses the fuck out of my dad. He just doesn't get it. But it's just like the best response for that sort of question.
Yeah, it being in the lounge is whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a very crappy aptitude test.
Yeah.
Besides anything else. Yeah.
Also, the posting of the results on, like, the wall, like, you would get your test results.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What? Like I said, I remember having to go and sit down with my guidance counselor and having this very serious conversation about what he thought I should do with the rest of my life, which was nothing to do with who I was or what I wound up doing or even what school I went to, because this is how much they knew me. But yeah, they would not post like, oh, you're going to be you're going to be a florist and you're going to be a jail guy and you're going to be in law enforcement.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I mean, like, the thing that I remember from those tests is that they never, like, it was never just, like, one hard answer, because there's never one hard answer with that kind of test. You would sit down with your guidance counselor, and your guidance counselor would give you, like, several options of, like, these are things that you might want to explore. And then you might go to the booth for that. I mean, it's not like, you're fucking law enforcement, you're just gonna go here. So posting it, like, actual test results is, like, really weird. And also what's weird is that they imply that the career fair is optional.
Right.
Because Buffy has to do it, because Snyder has told her to do it. But it seems like, if it's optional, why the fuck is Xander doing it?
Right.
Oh.
On that end, I mean, like, why is Oz doing it? Mr. I have no ambition and I just do whatever I do because I do it. He would never do something like that.
Does Oz actually take the test?
They never actually say that Oz took the test. He was scouted by the computer company, but the test was irrelevant for them.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
then.
He was sort of like, hello, I'm a guy in a suit, and you should come this way. We have an opportunity for you. Yeah,
okay.
I don't know if Oz actually took the test.
Yeah.
Now, can we talk about the fact that Xander as a prison guard that test is not accurate.
No, not even close.
Like, that's not even close to something that Xander would be good at all.
Right, I mean, like, it might have been, like, insulting, but for me, it's like, well, they would tell him to be, like, a stock boy at, Target, or, working behind the deli counter, or something like that, where it's just kind of, doing manual labor and not having to think kind of thing, as compared to prison guard? Really? That means he should have been somebody in authority that's kind of like a bully, and that's not who Xander
is. I mean, Xander can be a bully in some ways, but not in that way. He's not he's not authoritarian at all.
Honestly, with the number of construction workers I know, and I know quite a few, because actually my brother runs a construction company, they actually really hammered the nail on the head when it came to Xander's career.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a great career for him.
Carpentry is perfect for Xander.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I had a cousin who was similar to him, and I mean, he wound up going into neon signs and stuff like that, but it's a similar vocation in terms of you're working with your hands, you're not like, it's a totally different thing, which is a Xander thing, too.
Well, and by that point, and we'll talk about it when we get there, Xander has learned so much from Buffy and Giles about how to, like, looking at their leadership, I think especially Giles, how to deal with people, how to manage people in, like, a very constructive way. And so he gets promoted to foreman, and he's doing really well. And, I mean, he's the one that actually goes somewhere with his career.
Yeah. Yeah, Xander's career path is very realistic, from what I know of working in construction. Nobody I know who works in construction really wanted to go working into construction. They just took the job as a way to make some extra money, and they thought it would be an easy thing to do. And then they get good at it. And they realize that they have, like, an aptitude for it. And eventually they will get to the point where they're foreman, or they will start their own company or whatever. And yeah, actually, one of my friends who was in construction just got back from Nepal. He was building houses for Habitats for Humanity. So
neat.
I want to shout out to Kyle there.
Hi, Kyle.
I don't know if he listens, but...
I mean, I actually knew somebody who was in construction who liked it, but he wound up going into, like, construction and architecture, so they wound up doing, like, putting in roofs or putting in extra rooms. In fact, they did the extra room on our house, but it was something that this guy liked to do, and he just kind of found a way to make money from it and to start a business, and he's very successful, so... Yeah, but prison guard, like, really?
Yeah, so prison guard, I'm like, that would be the worst job ever to get back to the episode, be the worst job ever for Xander.
But
so
one thing about construction, just weird random fact, Tom Baker was working on a construction site when he was cast as the Doctor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Apparently, Hollywood likes construction workers and carpenters because, Harrison Ford.
That's true. I don't understand the whole thing with Willow in this. I mean, like, why doesn't she get her results? I mean, if the whole, like, computer thing is completely separate, why doesn't she get her results and also have that visit? It's just...
Oh.
Yeah.
There's so many problems with this whole career fair thing.
There is.
Yeah, it's like somebody came up with a good, let's have a career fair, and they don't actually know what the hell they're doing, and they kind of just made up stuff without ever having gone through this.
Up against this problem so many times already. Like, I'm sorry, do they not understand how high school works? Like, we have said this multiple times. They obviously don't remember how high school works.
Oh, I mean, we'll come up against, like, critical research failure in about 2 seconds once we get Drusilla with those fucking tarot cards.
Yeah. I think that's actually one of the things, like, when, we talk about, like, how some of us think that, this isn't that great, well-written an episode. I think it's, like, there's a lot to like about the writing, but structurally, it just, like, so much of this episode makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I guess I agree with that.
I mean, like, even more than usual. It's like, there's, like, there's just a huge number of just weird logic gaps.
Yeah, I think I meant when I said I really like the writing, I like the dialogue, and I think the dialogue, I think these 2 episodes, they whip along, they have a really good pacing, like, so it's easy just on a, hey, I'm going to throw this on, watch, to just, like, really like them. Because they have a really great zippy dialogue, they move along, but yeah, some of the plotting and the structure is like, what?
I wonder if they almost did not have enough plot for 2 episodes. I mean, like I said, this is the first 2-parter that they did, and there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes on for a while. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're only here because you need padding, but you know what? If it was 1-parter, we wouldn't have gotten all of those wonderful scenes with Willow and Oz. So just don't listen to me.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of the same thing happens with Doctor Who 2-parters sometimes.
You mean all the time?
All the time.
We ran short. We need to throw in another scene that makes absolutely no sense. Here, have
Or
one.
sometimes when you have the expanded time, you do get these smaller character-driven scenes. Mm-hmm. And so it's sort of a plus and a minus. And I love the little character-driven, like, let's hang out, let's talk kind of scenes. Sometimes more the big plotty stuff. So I think I'm willing to forgive that a little bit more.
Well, one of the things Marty Noxon mentions in her commentary is that what she sees as, like, one of the things that sets Buffy apart from a lot of other supernatural action shows is that Buffy is very much a character drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it is very character driven. And I think she's absolutely right. And I think that comes across very well in these 2 episodes. It's just that the actual plotting is a little...
Yeah, well, I think even the plotting is okay, but if you start to look at the actual logic behind the plot, is when it all goes to hell.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
This makes no sense, and that makes there's like way too many like logic holes. But if you kind of say, okay, well, it's Buffyverse, we're just going to ignore it. The actual, for me, the story is actually a lot of fun, and it kind of keeps going, and it's got really good momentum, and the character-driven stuff is phenomenal. So
right, yeah,
because
the strength here is the character stuff.
Yeah, this is a Saturday afternoon. I kind of maybe want to paint my nails or something. Series of episodes. Because again, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I'm crying at the end of these episodes. I'm sort of like, that was really fun. You get Willow and Oz. You get Xander and Cordy. So for me, it's sort of one of those. At the time, I thought this episode was amazing. So,
yeah.
But it was at the time. So can we talk a little bit as we're going just like through chronologically? I gotta give props to the costume designers because they do a lot of subtle stuff with Drusilla. Yeah. And I think I've mentioned this before. She's been, besides her first appearance in white and fragility and stuff, and we see that again in this scene, with her in the very, and by the end of the next episode, which we'll talk about when we get there, she's gonna take on the black and not go back to the white. So I just thought it was a really, like, subtle and good choice. by the costumers.
I also thought it was interesting that Willow especially is like so frumpy in this, despite everything. I mean, she's like wearing the baggy overalls, etc. Where Buffy is like, Buffy kind of goes from being kind of chic to, again, we'll talk in the next episode, but she's kind of frumpy in the next episode. So I just thought like the contrast between people.
Only Allison Hannigan can pull off those overalls, and I love me a good pair of overalls. I rocked the overalls like in the 90s, but like you got those like Dickies and you washed them like a whole bunch and they were super baggy. Like Buffy wears a pair of overalls in School Hard that like I adore. These are not good overalls. They're very Willow. So they're very Willow, and Allie pulls them off because she's Allie. Well, it's Allie as Willow is pulling them off, but yeah, oh my god, they're hideous.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a big overalls fan, I think because I grew up in the 70s, and I remember like it was like a very hippie thing of like overalls, especially the denim ones, and I wore them to death, and now I hate them. I just think they're like so like unattractive on 99% of the population. But that's
I was adorable in them, just FYI.
I was a dork too, but I
said I was adorable in them. I rocked those overalls.
I was a dork in everything.
On the Drew and Spike scenes, since we are on that one now, I have never fucking understood like what is actually wrong with Drusilla. Like they do, like they kind of give like this idiot mob kind of like that's supposed to explain it, and I'm like, she's a vampire. Like I don't care what a mob like is it a spell or something?
No,
I mean I know the comics later kind of they do explain it in the comics, but it's a fucking retcon, and I don't think it really explains very well like what happens.
My big problem is that it's just so inconsistent. Mm-hmm. Like there are times when she seems fine. I mean, not strong, but getting around fine. And then there are times when she's just like falling over, and I notice in these episodes she seems bruised often.
Yeah.
Maybe she has mystical fibromyalgia where some days you're totally fine and you're running around, you're having a great day, and like 2 days later you're like, I can't walk. I'm going to call it mystical fibromyalgia.
Maybe, but I mean, because that was the thing that made me go, it's like, what is this?
I wrote it off as vampire consumption because it just like kind of goes with her time period and like the frail thing and the swoony thing. But like, how do vampires get consumption? I don't know. But yeah, I was like, it was bugging me because it was like, why do we never hear what is wrong with her? I mean, we know she's like crazy because Angelus drove her insane, which is fine mentally. Oh yeah. But why is she like so weak and frail one moment and then the next minute she's just fine? And
vampire fibromyalgia.
How do you pick this up from a mob?
Right, and so, like, Marty Noxon in her commentary, she's like, oh, Drusilla's mystical illness. It's a MacGuffin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She literally just admits it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I accept that MacGuffins happen. It just drives me crazy when they do, because I always like explanations for things. Yeah. And they do explain it in the comics that Spike and Drew were driven down by a mob. Spike nearly gets staked, and Drusilla actually gets kidnapped. So she is not actually injured by the mob. She's just taken by one, and she's tortured by an Inquisitor, which they introduced Inquisitors in, I believe, an Angel, actually.
Right.
One comes in during the Holtz arc. But it still doesn't really adequately explain why this Inquisitor was able to injure Drusilla so badly that she is still weak. Because, I mean, like, later... God, then the next episode, Angel gets tortured, and he ends up being fine, like, by the next episode. So, just fuck everything.
Yeah. I take issue with Marty Noxon's characterization of the MacGuffin. Because that's not really what a MacGuffin is.
You are correct. That is not
this is a plot contrivance, not a MacGuffin.
That's true.
And also, even if you have a plot contrivance, you can actually give some logic or backstory that makes sense and is consistent for that, just so you say, okay, well, we need to make her sick. Okay, we're going to say it's vampire consumption or dragon pox or blah, blah, blah. And this is why she is the way she is, and this is what happened. Okay, fine. And go. As a writer, it drives me crazy when it's like, but what is this? Why?
Yeah. I don't know if I blame Marty because this is something that has been baked into the Drusilla character.
It has been.
The first time she's been introduced. Yeah. This is entirely a Joss thing.
Oh no, I'm only blaming her for using the term MacGuffin.
In the comment, right, because it's not a MacGuffin. It is, as Joss says in one of his commentaries, applied phlebotomy.
Yes.
That's what they called it, was their phlebotomy. So...
Like I had mentioned earlier in terms of, research failure. I mean, it's not research failure, but it's research I don't care with Drusilla's tarot cards. It feels like they kind of... At least the props person kind of tried, because they're very obviously influenced by the Rider-Waite deck.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually love them. And
they're gorgeous.
And today's day of, merchandising, they would have sold, the official, Drusilla, blah, blah, blah.
They actually tried to do a Buffy the Vampire Slayer tarot deck, and I've seen concept art from it. What they ran into was a issue with people's likenesses. Some people didn't want to give their likenesses, and you can listeners and you guys, you can Google it. There was actually really, and it wasn't Drusilla's deck, because that wouldn't have been a licensing thing. It was actually tarot with the characters from Buffy.
Yeah, I would like to see Drusilla's, and I agree with you, because I picked up immediately that they were very Rider-Waite, and I liked it, and I liked that that actually got tied into the story in terms of the cult guys and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean It really does feel kind of half-assed on it, because, they are very influenced by the Rider-Waite deck, and she does do kind of a Celtic cross spread, so somebody at least did, some cursory, at least read the first page in a How to Do Tarot card.
Right.
Well, as Marty points out, it's not a standard tarot deck, so...
Oh, no, it's not. Because,
so I kind of cut them some slack with anything, any inaccuracies, because it's just to begin with not a standard tarot deck. So
right.
All
so
bets
whatever
are off.
Drusilla's doing, we can write that off as it's some vampire thing, and who cares?
Yeah,
so.
well, I mostly just wanted to mention that because I did think those cards were gorgeous.
They are gorgeous. The production designers did a great job with the cards that were described in the script.
Yeah,
I have the script somewhere, and she describes what she wants from the cards, and the production designers did a great job. They're beautiful.
Still trying to figure out why Patrice was represented by a leopard.
I think that was their fake out, because they wanted that to it was the fake out that it was going to be Kendra. You think it's Kendra at first. And of course, black people have to be, represented by furious beasts.
Yeah, I suppose it could be worse. They could have represented her by a panther, so...
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean that. That was sarcasm voice, by the way. Because of course. So yeah. I also love in the scene Dalton. Dalton is one of my favorite minor characters.
I love Dalton.
Yeah, he's Vampire Dalton. Wesley.
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He's total Vampire Wesley.
Although I find this is the first time I noticed this. It was, Spike says, "Isn't that what transcribers do?" And Dalton's like, "Not real." And then of course Spike just grabs him and gives him the riot act. But it occurs
a language.
It occurs to me, it's if what Dalton is a transcriber, he is the wrong
translator.
He is the wrong person for this job.
Yeah,
I think Spike just went, "You have glasses and look nerdy. Do my bidding."
Yeah,
and that fits in Spike's character, not inconsistently. He's like, "You're nerdy. You do smart things. I'm going to go over here."
Details are not Spike's strong point.
Details are not.
Dalton as the vampire Wesley. I don't mind the idea of Dalton as a watcher who got turned into a vampire.
Oh, I love that. That's a great headcanon. That's lovely.
Yeah, because you got to figure the watchers are doing stuff involving vampires. Mm-hmm. Some of them have got to get turned into vampires.
Yeah,
because it's not like they have the protections of being the Slayer.
Well, and even Slayers, I know, have been turned into vampires. If you look at sort of the extended university stuff, Slayers that are vampires.
My immediate question is then how do you get to Sunnydale?
People, because the Hellmouth calls them.
Okay.
Maybe he's a holdover from the Master, who's very much into the ritualistic stuff and the research and the, what does this all mean? And he was like, I'm just headcanoning it now. A holdover from the Master that didn't get killed by Spike because he looked like he was nerdy and useful.
Yeah, because, Spike did take over the Order of Aurelius. So, assume you assume that there would be a couple of them still left.
I buy it.
All right.
I buy it.
Okay.
I'm not going to quibble on that one.
Well, I think I probably have plenty to quibble with later on. So
See, there you go.
I'm
Let's
happy
save
to
our
let that one
quibbles.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
also but just jumping ahead a little bit, but the entire what are they doing with this stuff and how do they translate this thing? And again, logic goes completely out the window, or maybe I'm just real dumb when it comes to what Spike was trying to do with this stuff in the cross. But we'll go ahead on that.
Yeah, if nobody has anything else to say on the Spike and Drusilla scene, we can move on to the Buffy and Angel scene.
No, Angel. I'm going to break into Buffy's room. What a
I
gentleman.
know!
And he knows about Career Week because he lurks. Yeah,
I
that's
know.
not
Yeah.
stalkerish.
That's a
at
You
great-
are
all.
in my brain.
It's a great line, but it's creepy.
It is
The
creepy.
whole thing is creepy, and this ties in with, again, like with the Twilight thing back in the day, and people always like, oh, well, Buffy never did this, and, Edward was a creeper, and I'm like, no, look at Angel, he's as much as a creeper, if not more so, than Edward Cullen, and be quiet. So, yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not a fan of Twilight. I have read 2 of the Twilight books, and they were fucking terrible.
They're terrible.
And I read them just so that I knew they were terrible.
I read 3.5, but
Yeah.
but I had friends who really loved them, and it was like, if they like them, that's fine. But it's just like, if you remember, like, there was this whole fandom thing back when they were really, really hot.
Yeah.
And like people who hated them were always throwing up at Buffy as like the pinnacle of the opposite of Twilight, and it's like, no, this is really creepy.
For as much as I hate Twilight, yeah. Angel is creepy in Buffy's room, and Spike gets even creepier in Buffy's room because you remember, he sniffs her shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, but
So-
the difference between Spike and Angel, in my mind, is that we're supposed to see Angel as this romantic hero and really good for Buffy at this point.
Yeah.
At this point in the narrative. Whereas Spike, first of all, he doesn't have a soul. Second of all, he's a creeper. But he's a creeper in a different way. Like, he's an outright... We're supposed to think this is romantic, that Angel knows all this shit because he lurks. We're never meant to think that Spike sniffing Buffy's underwear is romantic. I don't think. But we'll
He
get
doesn't
there.
sniff her underwear, he sniffs her shirt. There's
I
a
mean,
difference.
Spike is very upfront about being an asshole.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, they're just very different characters.
Yeah.
Angel has this romantic.
Is it like a gothic
shell.
hero? It's a gothic hero trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he creeps in her room, he lurks for Career Week, and also, like, Buffy calls him her cradle-robbing creature of the night
I know.
boyfriend. So it's
Yeah.
like, I know you think it's cute, but it's kind of true.
Oh, it's absolutely true. It's. I mean, I honestly, we've talked before about how I don't think any of us are Bangle people, and like I don't really ship. So for me, it was like, whatever. These are the first episodes where I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm getting why people really don't like Bangle.
And I don't want to shit on shippers though. Like, I certainly don't want to ship on people that ship something, because I certainly have problematic ships, Buffy and Spike. For sure.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make it seem like we are going to shit on that all the time.
Oh no,
because I
I'm not,
don't want to
I'm
be
not
that
saying,
person.
Yeah,
but,
I'm certainly not saying I'm shitting on it. It's just like I understand why the people who don't like that ship don't like that ship.
And see, on the opposite, I can see why people who do like that ship love that ship.
Absolutely.
But it's not for me. But I see what they're trying to do with it in the show. But then it's like, yeah, but this is like really creepy. But I think part of it is also that mores have changed even in 20 years.
Yeah.
So things like that were like more acceptable. I mean, they were more acceptable, let's say 40, 50 years ago. But when I was a teenager, that would have been like perfectly normal. I wouldn't have been like, why the hell is he hanging out in a room and, like, basically going past boundaries he shouldn't.
Yeah.
But now we look at it and it's very different. It's like, no, this is not something you should be doing, and this is not something we should be encouraging, even if he's a vampire.
And keep in mind, the people, not all of them, because shippers come in all age ranges and whatever,
Right.
but we're now all people over the age of 30. So looking at this is like, I would hate for the children I know that are in high school, that are, I have friends with kids, for someone to do this kind of stuff. I'd be like, red flag, red flag, red flag. But as I was watching it in 1990, this is still 1997, I just wasn't thinking about it, I guess.
Oh,
So,
I
like,
totally know what you mean.
Yeah, we're all a bunch of adults going, teenagers, protect them. Teenage girls, protect them at all costs.
I was going to say, when I was growing up, I mean, I was reading Harlequin romances and stuff, and there was that whole, like, rapist as, like, the protagonist romantic hero trope that, you know, at the time I didn't even think about. It was in even, like, science fiction or fantasy, like Anne McCaffrey stuff, and you never thought, like, this is a bad thing. It was like, oh, it's so romantic, they're so carried away, and, like, now you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, this certainly isn't the first time we've watched an episode and gone, just, oh, yeah, this is much more problematic than I remember.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at V.C. Andrews novels were everybody's, like, crack that we passed around from mid-school on. Like, I don't know if anybody have read any of those, like the...
I didn't. I have friends who were obsessed
Flowers
with them,
in the Attic. But, like, we passed them around like they were porn. Like, secretly reading them because we knew our moms and dads would be like, why are you reading those things? Or, like, total trash. So I get it. Now, one thing I will say about the scene that I do like is at least they're having a conversation about things that are interesting to Buffy and about their emotional lives and their feelings, which is why having a two-parter works because we're always complaining about, like, what do? They go fight things. Everybody's brooding. Angel comes and says, you're in danger. They actually sit down and have a conversation.
They do have a conversation, but I actually have a real problem with this conversation because it proves that writers are way older than the characters that they're writing.
Yeah.
Because Buffy was born in 1980, 4 years after Dorothy Hamill had won her gold medal.
True.
And Buffy would not even be old.
Do not diss Dorothy Hamill.
I am not dissing Dorothy Hamill.
No, she's dissing the logic and the anachronism.
Yeah, like, I mean...
the anachronism of Dorothy Hamill, and, you know, it should have been sort of like Christy Yamaguchi or...
Yeah, certainly people did have the Dorothy Hamill haircut, but Buffy would have, like, by the time...
They had the Dorothy Hamill haircut when I was in high school and, like, early college. So,
by the time Buffy was old enough to actually, like, state to Joyce that she wanted this haircut, it would have been, like, 10 years after that was actually a thing.
True.
Because, I mean, like, she was a headliner in the Ice Capades, but I don't even think, like, Buffy would be old enough to remember that, because she was, Dorothy Hamill was not a headliner in the Ice Capades, like, when Buffy was old enough to remember. Like, she would have been done by, like, 1983 or 84 or something. So, I mean, like...
I don't know. I mean, if Buffy was a serious skater... it's possible she could have been obsessed with Dorothy Hamill.
It's
because
possible.
I don't think I think in that period there isn't another major figure skater.
It is possible, but I mean, this is something that does come up a lot in this show, where they will make the characters make a reference to something that is like way, because it's something that they were interested in when they were younger.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm a little biased here because I was a skater, so I was obsessed with Dorothy. I had a huge crush on Dorothy Hamill.
Yeah, but you're 20 years or 15 years older than she is, so.
Yes, but Dorothy Hamill is the best.
Okay, so yeah, it would have been someone like Christy Yamaguchi because she just won. Well, who was the next one after? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I did watch a lot of figure skating when I was Buffy's age. I was pretty obsessed. But now, this is also the first appearance of Mr. Gordo.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love Mr. Gordo.
Who didn't... I believe that they actually came out with a Mr. Gordo.
They did come out with a Mr. Gordo. I really wanted him. There was this whole website, and I can't find it anymore. I'd have to go to Wayback Machine. That was all short fan fiction from Mr. Gordo's perspective.
Oh, God, I remember that.
And some of it was heartbreaking because he was at the bottom of the Hellmouth reflecting on missing Buffy. And some of it was just like really funny and sort of stuff that happened in Buffy's room from the perspective of Mr. Gordo, the stuffed pig. But some of them were really incredibly well written and heartbreaking with him stuck at the bottom of the Hellmouth. Oh. But I love Mr. Gordo, and I do. I want a Mr. Gordo.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Gordo.
I have a little squishy stress pig that I have named Mr. Gordo.
Oh.
He was like for a free gift with something at the bank. You know, like it was like, it has like Wells Fargo written on the side, but it's like a stress ball shaped like a pig, and his name is Mr. Gordo. And he sits next to my stuffed seal, who we named Sealy Booth. I'm a dork. Nice to meet you. But anyway, yeah, I'm a big fan of Mr. Gordo.
Who isn't?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a stuffed pig.
Even Angel's a fan of Mr. Gordo.
Yeah.
Everybody's a fan of Mr. Gordo. And they bring him up several times.
Yeah.
You know, he's a recurring... Mr. Pointy and Mr. Gordo are the recurring whatever.
Yeah.
Mr. Pointy.
So, Spike hiring the Order of Taraka, I think, is a very interesting move for Spike. First of all, it shows just how incredibly frustrated Spike is on everything Buffy. But also, it kind of sets Spike in an interesting light, because the entire reason Spike came to town is to kill another Slayer so that he could gain some more, street cred, because he likes killing Slayers. But he's already just, not even half a season into it, been decided, okay, you know what, this Slayer's too tough, I gotta hire somebody to do it. And I think part of it is Buffy's really tough, but also as we get into I think it's in season 5 that we see the flashback to season 3, if that makes any sense, of Drusilla talking about how Spike can't kill Buffy, and saying that Spike can't kill Buffy because of how he feels about her. So I almost feel like Spike hiring the Order of Taraka is, a way to get around the fact that there's the psychological block in him actually going full strength against Buffy.
Oh yeah, I mean, Drusilla knew way before Spike did.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, she knows things.
Yeah, without that retrospective thing, I mean, I think also in this episode, we're coming very closely onto the ritual to reinvigorate Drusilla.
Yeah.
And I think he's more concerned with that and is more worried that Buffy's just going to get in the way. And at this point, he's just like, I just need to get Buffy out of the way.
Out of the picture. That makes a lot of sense, David.
And do this. So there is actually a practical explanation for this here, that we don't need that later quasi-retcon.
Well, I'm always bringing it into the whole scope of the Buffyverse. I do want to add, okay, we do find out in this episode. Do we find out in this episode or the next one that they need Angel? Yeah, it's this one.
Is it this one?
It's the next one.
It's the next one.
Okay, in the next one, we find out they need Angel. Did they know that? They did not know that beforehand. And the book that they stole was obviously Giles's.
Yes.
So it seems like a lot of the stuff for Drusilla's cure just, happened. It wasn't, we have to go to Sunnydale to get it. It just, circumstances have brought him there. So I don't know if, did they specifically come to the Hellmouth to cure Drusilla?
I think so.
Is the Hellmouth a spa for evil?
I don't. It's Spike. He doesn't have great decision making and planning skills. He was just like, maybe we can find something here and blah blah. I'm gonna kill another Slayer. That's about as much forethought as Spike at this point in his character development thinks about anything. I don't know. That's where I sort of am staying on Spike at this point.
I think even at the end of his development, that's as far as he really thinks anyways. He's
he's sort of a vampire of action.
He's a doer, not a thinker.
He's a doer, not a thinker. I mean, which is not to say Spike's not an intelligent being. He's a smart dude, but he's like, all right, I'm going to do this thing because this is the thing I want to do right now. So yeah. I don't know. That's my explanation on why they're there. Is Spike's like, this is a good idea. Let's do it.
I get to run over the Sunnydale sign.
I get to run over the Sunnydale sign and be a badass. So, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of Spike's whole internal monologue on that. Yeah. I could be wrong.
I mean, I have to say, if we're talking about the book and the rituals from the book, I've got all kinds of problems with this whole book thing. And I'm not sure if they all rise up in this episode or the next episode, but there's definitely stuff where I'm just like, this makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. That just like the logic holes on this whole thing are just made my brain hurt.
I mean, like, first of all, like the whole thing, which comes up almost immediately after what we're talking about anyway, is that getting the Dulac cross, and the cross. I mean, like, if you look at the cross, there are no symbols on it.
Yeah,
right.
There's like, how does it work as a decoder ring?
Yeah.
I mean,
I have no idea. Yeah.
It's not like we see them wave it over and it magically does something. It's supposedly a key in a cryptography
It's on the back.
sense.
We never see the back. It's on the back.
They're veering into Dan Brown territory here without knowing anything. I mean, like, as much as Dan Brown is not my favorite writer, when it comes to, like, a lot of the things of, like, cryptology and cryptography,
right,
puzzle solving and whatever,
right.
Yeah, he's really, really good at that. At least he knows his research. And I was like, yeah, what does this cross do again?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a cross?
That's
you
a
put it on the
MacGuffin.
book, and what?
Yeah. No,
That's an actual
no
MacGuffin,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
No,
'Cause it's
no, that's not MacGuffin. That's bad writing.
Okay.
Bad production design.
All right.
See, typically, so like the term MacGuffin stems from Hitchcock,
Right.
and it's basically the way Hitchcock described it was that it's something that is incredibly important to the characters, but not actually important to the story.
The Maltese Falcon is a MacGuffin.
The Maltese Falcon, the actual Falcon statue, could be a MacGuffin.
Is a MacGuffin.
The example that I think Hitchcock used and that I always think of is in Hitchcock's Notorious. The plot is about this, like, Nazi ring trying to smuggle uranium or something, and like the uranium gets talked about by the characters, and it's all about the uranium, but like no one cares about the uranium. It's all about the relationship between Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman.
And it's amazing that it's that's probably my favorite Hitchcock movie, just on a side note.
Oh, that is a fantastic film. But that's a MacGuffin, is that like everyone in the plot, in the story is like, this is the important thing, but the audience knows that what's more important is, for instance, the relationship between the characters, and that the MacGuffin is there just so the characters have something to motivate them to get the real story going.
Just trying to think of a Buffy example of it. I think probably the best one would be from Angel season 5, when Angel and Spike are both going over after that cup.
Very good.
Yes,
Well,
that would be a MacGuffin.
Yeah, because and I mean, it ends up that the cup is filled with Mountain Dew, so it's spoilers. It's a total fake out. Like they're just trying to get rid of Angel and Spike for a bit.
Really great.
But the whole episode is about Angel and Spike's competition with each other, because I believe that was a big, like, a flashback heavy episode where it kind of establishes like the pecking order of the whirlwind. So that's probably, like, off the top of my head, the Buffy MacGuffin that I can think of. Yeah. Right.
So my one other thing about the Dulac book and the cross and getting the ritual and all that, and this looks ahead to the next episode, but it is related to the book, so I do kind of want to bring it up, is eventually Giles and the Scooby Gang figure out all the stuff about the ritual.
You're right.
You're right. Like, you don't need the book.
You're right. You're totally right.
So what? Is Spike just lazy?
Need the book?
Is Spike just lazy? He's like, no, I just want to go straight to the book. I don't want to do research.
Yeah.
It actually works with him as a character, but
it's just.
These two episodes are giant plot holes. Entertaining as fuck plot hole,
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many plot holes in these episodes. You're right.
Yeah.
I have a problem with the series as a whole. And I think this is actually one of the first times that this comes up. Sunnydale has a lot of shit in it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there is just so much stuff that is buried in Sunnydale.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like Giles has all of the research to find where all of this stuff is hidden. I would like to know why they do not just sit down, have a preemptive strike, and be like, okay, let's figure out all of the stuff that's in Sunnydale. Let's dig it up and have the Watchers put it in a warehouse like the end of Indiana Jones. The next scene, we have Principal Snyder grilling Willow and Xander.
And he's only in that one tiny scene, right?
It's
Yep.
just just that
in
one
both
scene,
episodes.
yeah.
I just love Xander saying, "Not your actual shoes, because you're a tiny person." Like I just wanted to say, I have a note, and I don't know what it's relating to. It says, "Poor Buffy. She really wants to make choices, but is given no autonomy."
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely.
And that her brown and black sweater with the boots, I would wear that today, and it doesn't look dated.
No, I agree.
It doesn't. It's just pretty. It's got that, like, the boots are very 90s style, but the rest of it, I'm like, I would totally wear that. It's adorable. But yeah, like, she has no real autonomy. She's not allowed to make decisions the way that Willow and Xander or at least have some control over their lives and their decisions.
But I think that's part of the theme of these two episodes. It's just to prove to that, and the fact that Buffy is so frustrated that she doesn't really have a life, that she's on this path that she did not choose, is not.
Yeah, I feel so bad for her, because this is going to come up again and again and again and again. That, like, Buffy is so resilient, and that's why I love her so much throughout this series, because she has very little choice and very little real autonomy. So those moments where she does really assert her own power and autonomy are really, really special, because this girl's life is a mess. I mean, we're still in that sunny part of, the episodes where there's a lot of fun, but if you really think about it in the full picture, like, she's a very resilient human being. So
no, I think actually something that I noted about this episode is that there's this episode really keeps with the pre-millennial idea of people must go out and get another job from somebody else. Meanwhile, these days, it's, if you're in a position like Buffy, I mean, like, nobody's in a position like Buffy, but in terms of if you're a person who is unable to get out of their house to get a job, whether it be for physical or psychological reasons, they're able to, find some sort of livelihood for themselves often. I mean, not across the board, but there is the post-millennial thing of, if I can't work for somebody else, then I'm going to be able to find a job for myself.
Right.
And they're still trying to, this is still in the age of, you have to be able to know exactly what your job title is. Like, you have to be a grocer,
it's very Gen X. I mean, because they're just on the cusp, these characters and that sort of bridge, because I'm like smack dab in the middle of Gen X, right? And they're sort of tailish end, but still firmly in that.
Buffy, Willow, and Xander and Cordelia would all actually be classified as millennials.
Right.
They are like the first year that is qualified as millennials, and actually there is a huge debate. As somebody who is, I think I'm 2 years younger than Buffy, and Buffy and all of them are supposed to be 2 or 3 years younger. And I've always had like this internal conflict in myself, in the fact that I get classified as a millennial, but then there's also all of that Gen Y bullshit, and nobody can really agree on what we are.
Yeah,
I mean, millennials, the derivation of the term at least gives an actual time period. It's the idea is it's people who came of age, of maturity at the turn of the century.
Exactly.
So,
and they did. I mean, 90? They all graduated in 99. So they're 18, 19 years old in 1999, heading into the new millennium. So,
right. Well, you said Buffy was born in 80, right?
She was born in 80. Yeah.
Right.
Which
so that's exactly right for millennials.
Yeah. But of course, at the time, there was this very different mindset. And actually, as somebody who came up during that time, I mean, this is like the one time where I'll be able to be like, well, no, I guess I'll probably be able to bring this up a lot, is that my obvious upbringing in terms of, time period and everything is very similar to, I mean, other than, like location and everything, but just in terms of time that that whole definition of who we were as a generation. I got thrown into Gen X sometimes, and it's like, I am not fucking Gen X. I was born in 1983.
I'm on the cusp between Baby Boomer and Gen X, so you are certainly not Gen X. So,
and I'm firmly in the middle. I'm only five or so years older than these characters, so I was just out of high school when this show debuted. Like, they graduate in 99, and I graduated in 93. Mm-hmm. So, like, this whole, like, you need to know what you're going to do. Like, what's your job going to be for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Which most of my friends do not have the same job they set out to have. Because all my friends set out to be actors, and only, like, 1% of people actually succeed at that. So, Though I do have some very successful friends. My friend Chris was on Bones. And he was just on the Fosters. So he actually has made a really good career. But my other friends are things like New York Times bestselling novelists and not actors. Right. And not all of them.
Oh, I feel so bad for them.
I know, her book is amazing. I'll plug that another time.
Everyone I know, it's we are musicians, writers, and computer programmers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Everybody I know now is social workers, but
Yeah. Since we were talking about future careers later on, I will forever, ever be salty that they were never able to work something out with Buffy working at the Magic Box.
Yeah.
Right. I know.
Like, they only ever tried it in that one episode. And, like, there was obviously the nerds were doing stuff. But, I mean, it made so much fucking sense. Of course, I'm also forever salty that the Watchers Council doesn't.
Me too. Like, we'll totally get there.
Well,
at another
the
time.
Watchers Council are just fuckheads.
A bag of dicks.
Oh,
yeah.
And not like a good bag of dicks that you go out and buy for yourself. Like an actual bag of severed dicks. Like, I ain't got no problem with people going out and buy... But what I mean is a dildo.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean.
Yes, no. They're a bad bag of dicks.
Yeah. I mean, you would think that in season 5, when Buffy basically takes over the Watchers Council and gets Giles his money retroactive from the time he was fired, she would have also been like, oh yeah. And
I also get pissed at Giles for not telling them they're going to pay her. He gives her money. You know what? Like, we're going to get there. Right now, I understand where they're not paying her. She's 16.
Right.
Well, yeah.
She lives with her mom.
Yeah.
But,
and also, I have said this before, and I will say it again. I'm sure, like, this will all I'll be saying during the episode Helpless. The Watchers Council wants Buffy to die.
They do. Yeah. They want their Slayers to die at 18.
Yeah.
They really do.
Worry about them.
Yeah. I mean, as we'll find out in this story, like, it's clear that nobody in the Watchers Council talks to anybody else in the Watchers Council.
Nope.
Oh, definitely not.
And by the time we get to Helpless, it will be clear the Watchers Council is severely dysfunctional and borderline evil.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, they're just so hidebound and so, like, conservative with a small c that this is the way it's been done. It's always going to be done that way, and we don't have any reason to change. Meanwhile, they're putting young people's lives at...
I mean, they represent the patriarchy that Buffy's fighting against. They really do.
Exactly.
It's like they're just a direct representation of that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they actually do, like, in one episode, I believe it's Checkpoint.
Mm-hmm. I love Checkpoint's one of my favorites.
They specifically call the Slayer a tool of the Watchers Council.
For sure.
Right.
And I definitely believe that the whole reason why Slayers are young girls and why they have this, stupid ass, test for them when they turn 18 is because they want to kill them off so that they don't have girls that, can actually...
Well, they don't want women. They want girls because they're more pliable.
Yeah, they want girls who are dependent on them. And we'll even start to get in. I will get into this a little bit more in part 2 because we definitely do start to see shades of that once we really get into establishing who Kendra is.
Yes.
That's definitely a conversation we're going to have next week.
Since we'll have that conversation in part 2, let's have the conversation about Oz and Willow.
Yay! Something positive.
Squeeze,
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. What do you guys think? what would Oz have done if Willow hadn't walked into that room? Would he eventually sought her out, figured out who she was, ran into her some other way? Like, because, like, Oz is very proactive in his relationship, and it's obvious that he's so into her, but he's not ever done anything to figure out who she is.
Well, I think considering later on he literally runs into Buffy, I think literally he would have run into Willow again at some point, and then he would have worked his wonderful Oz charm, and everything would have been right at least for a little while. Because I totally ship these guys, and I am like non-repentant in my love of Willow and Oz, and deal with it.
Oh, no, there's no dealing with it in this case. Like, everybody, I think, here loves them.
Yeah. Oh God, as many problems as I have with these episodes, it's like every time Willow and Oz are on screen together, I have just the biggest smile on my face.
Oh, they're perfection.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
They're just, they're wonderful.
I remember very clearly when they had this, when they did this scene, when this episode first aired, when, you know, the guy steps aside and you see Oz, I fucking screamed.
I know.
I was so happy.
Canapé? I just love that it is his first words to her, a canapé.
Yeah, I find it interesting like that they show us almost none of their interaction in that scene.
Right.
It's like, and also I'm gonna nitpick. I don't think shrimp count as canapé.
No, I agree.
Okay, moving on.
And I'm wondering if Willow refuses the shrimp because she's Jewish.
It's possible. I mean,
maybe
they never get into whether or not she's kosher, but yeah, it's very possible.
But it's not uncommon for Jewish people occasionally to not eat certain foods that aren't kosher, not because they're kosher, but because it's part of the culture.
Yeah,
like you basically you didn't grow up eating it because.
I don't know. I come from a family where my very kosher grandmother used to eat canned shrimp in her house, but it had to be canned, and she had a special canned shrimp fork, and then it was okay, even though she was kosher. So it's like kosher logic in and out of the house, like, you know, completely baffles me, because I did not grow up kosher, but yeah, I agree with you that it's possible that she just kind of has an aversion to it without even like not a logical aversion because it is treif, but.
Right.
I remember that actually came up once when we went out to dinner together. I think we had gone to Denny's and you had ordered turkey bacon. And I was like, oh, is that because you're kosher? And you gave me like this really funny look. And it was like, no, it's because turkey bacon's more healthy. And it's like, you've seen me eat ham before.
When I like start with because I'm lactose intolerant, and I'll start with the waiter about like no dairy products. I'll have people who say, oh, you're kosher? I didn't know that. Like, no, I'm lactose intolerant. I love cheese. I love cheeseburgers. It don't love me, and you want to be able to spend the evening with me without my being horribly ill. But yeah, it's one of those weird things. But yes, I'd forgotten about that Denny's thing. That was a galley thing, I think. Yeah.
So I love. It's very subtle. Seth Green is great because she sits down. He's got the tray. He's looking at the tray. Like he's just staring in his Oz way. He's like staring at this tray of appetizers.
He's trying to understand them.
He's trying to understand them. But then he sees her out of his corner of the eye, and there's this incredible, subtle, micro bit of acting where he's just like it's this, like, it's something in his eyes. He's like, it's the
take ever.
It's the girl. It's that girl. It's that girl. I'm going to find out who she is. And like, it's this, it's so small of a moment, but it's so great. And it's Seth Green's little reaction. It's amazing.
Oh, he's so good. And as somebody who was like the Willow and Oz shippers, that was like the first group of people that I really connected with in the Buffy fandom. Like before this, I, you know, kind of lurked in the
posting board
on the fringes of things. But Willow and Oz, like when those Yahoo groups at the time, I believe it came up, I was joining all of them. But canapés became such a huge thing. After this happened, it's like that was like a huge joke with, you know,
canapés and the feather boa and the theme from A Summer Place. Those are like huge in the fandom for years. But it's such a great just little scene. Yeah,
as I think I mentioned that I got into Buffy fandom because the friend of mine who was the hardcore viewer was a huge Willow Oz shipper, and then, you know, later on things went to hell, and I kind of got dragged into it because I wanted to understand what she was talking about. And I've always liked Allison Hannigan. I love Seth Green. So it was like, I sort of knew that they were supposed to be together, so I can't even imagine what it would have been like to watch this going in like cold, not knowing their thing, and just like suddenly, you know, the gasp of like, oh my God, it's that guy. And it's wonderful even knowing it, but God, I wish in some ways that I had not known and I'd watched from the beginning, going into this completely unknowing anything, because the amount of surprise and like squee would have been like off the charts, I think.
Well, it is a testament to the writers and to Seth's acting that this is only the third episode that Oz has been in. And already people were like, when are they going to meet? When are they going to meet?
Well, half of them were, and the other half were like, now, damn it. People got all...
That is true.
There was half of the group that were really salty about Xander and Willow not happening.
Willow has had this really bad track record of every time a new love interest is introduced on the show, there is a huge contingent of people who absolutely hate
it. Happens to Buffy, too. Like, people automatically had it out for Riley Finn before. I know he's not the strongest character ever, but people already hated him just from a promotional picture in a magazine before they'd ever heard him state a word and knew anything about him.
I remember hearing all about that and like going in preparing to hate Riley because I knew so many people who had such strong opinions of him. And I like, true confession, I like Riley.
I do too.
I don't understand the hate for him except that he's not a vampire and he's not Angel or he's not Spike. So if you're, and that's like the whole shipper war thing in general. Like, you know, it's a show. It can work unless it's like it's something that doesn't work. So yeah, stop it.
I will, once we get into the Riley episodes, I will get into some of my feelings about Riley.
Oh, yeah. I definitely have feelings, but yeah, this is definitely, like, we dislike Angel more than we dislike Riley, which is super weird. But yeah, that scene is just, and it's a tiny little scene.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Which they have room for because it's a two-parter. I mean, obviously they had to put them in the same room. That had to be in it.
Oh yeah,
regardless. But so yeah, we can squee about that all day, but.
And I almost wonder if, like, the whole school fair thing, aside from, like, the character moments of everybody else, if, like, part of the reason that they actually did this in the first place was just to give us that scene of Willow and Oz meeting and, like, the weird computer, like, secret lair interview room.
Well, the career fair does actually have, like, a underlying thing with Buffy, because the whole episode is What's My Line, and it's all about, you know, what are we going to do when we grow up, and this whole episode, Buffy learning from Kendra, it's all about, you know, that it's being the Slayer is not actually a job for Buffy. Right. That it is, you know, inherent into who she is. And that's not a Slayer legacy thing. That is just who Buffy is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it almost feels like a little bit of reverse engineering. Like somebody said, hey, so how are we going to get them together? And then like they sort of built it around it. But
yeah, there could be a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And so after the wonderful Willow and Oz scene, we get into Buffy and Angel.
No, we get the Bugman.
Yeah.
Oh, we get the Bugman.
We get the Bugman, and my note says, even in the 90s, I don't think traveling salesmen were still a thing.
No, they weren't.
They weren't.
And I wouldn't have let that creeper in. But
even if he was offering you free things?
No, I totally would not have let a guy in giving me free like, I just wouldn't have let him in.
Because the thing is, the way the characters who let him in play it.
Super sexist.
It's like, as soon as they go, it's like, he goes free, they go, free? It's like the magic word that lets him in.
Free makeup, because that's all women want, are free makeup.
Right.
Which I have to say, like, I mean, I know this is from a later scene, but I have a lot of problems when Cordelia does that.
Yeah.
When she lets him in because of the free samples. Because Cordelia has literally said, it's better because it costs more.
Right.
True.
She'd be the kind of person who would go to, like, you know, whatever the equivalent of Sephora was, or the Macy's counter with a high-end, like, super, like, $50 lipstick even in 1997.
Yeah.
She would not be, like, dealing with cheap-ass, you know, equivalent of, like, there's nothing wrong with Avon. I never have used Mary Kay, so I don't know. But that, whatever the cheap-ass free equivalent of that kind of stuff is, because that's not good makeup, and it doesn't cost.
Avon ain't cheap, though. Avon
Yeah.
is not cheap makeup. It's really, and I think even
No,
Courtney would know that.
I like
but-
Avon, but I'm just saying like the equivalent of that is compared to going to the MAC counter or
Right.
going to the Christian Dior counter and spending like 20, in those days, $20, $30 on a lipstick, now like 50 or 60, because, so then she can say, oh, look, I have the, limited edition Dior, blah, 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 lippy. So,
The only time I've ever dealt with what I would kind of term as a traveling salesman is actually at Galley. Somebody had come to Galley and was trying to sell fucking makeup to, various people. And
that's
had come
hilarious.
up to me because I was outside smoking, and it came up and it was just like, oh, well, let me show you this makeup that I have. Meanwhile, I am all fucking gothed out at the time because this was back when I was still going really gothy, and was trying to sell me on all of these like neutral like brown tones, and I was just like, fucking look at me.
Look at me. Get
Look
very
at
black.
my face.
yeah.
Yeah, I see. And I remember I'm doing this scene, and I think Kelly Connell, who plays the bug guy, Norman Pfister, is really great.
Oh, he was wonderfully creepy.
He's wonderful, but I
He's
recognized him. I remember when the episode aired, I was like, oh, that's the guy. He was on the miniseries of Tales of the City, which was like a huge deal because it showed like gay nudity for the first time
Yeah,
on
it was,
broadcast
Walk
television.
On.
It was on PBS. So I
Yeah.
remember him as Norman Neal Williams or something from that miniseries. Is like, oh, it's a great choice. So he's just wonderfully creepy, but so innocuously looking creepy. Like, he's like Bug Willie Loman. I mean, that's totally how the costumers have him dressed, with the glasses, he's Bug Willie Loman.
I thought it was John Billingsley originally because they have a similar look, and I was like, no, that's not Dr. Phlox. It's like somebody else.
Yeah. No, I just,
Yeah,
they
but he
started
does
to
have a
pull it
very
off.
similar look. Yeah.
I just,
And actually, the actor who plays Dr. Phlox,
John Billingsley.
yes, he turns up on Angel.
Okay, cool.
well, there we go.
But they could be like brothers on a show, and it would work really well. Yeah. But yeah.
What I want to know is, I'm convinced that worms are not bugs.
Well, I think it was maggots. They were like larvae. I don't
They're
think they were
worms. They are. Well,
Oh.
if Marty Noxon's to be believed, they're worms,
Okay.
Okay.
and there were worm wranglers.
And I get that, and I get that worms are not bugs, but in terms of Xander and Cordelia, squishy things are bugs.
Yeah, but everyone refers to him exclusively as the bug guy.
Right.
Marty Noxon does it on the commentary.
Google the Chew.
And I'm just like, he's not a bug guy. He's a worm guy.
Well, I'm going to forgive that one because, like, a lot of people that don't know shit like that, like, yes, I know that they're larvae and that they're worms, but at the same time, I probably would have been bug guy.
But also,
See,
to me, like, larva they're basically infant bugs, so they're bugs. They're not like, it's not like it's an earthworm or it's, I don't know what. So, yeah, I'm with Cordelia and Xander on this one. But I understand your reason for being, specific, David, and you're right, but...
I mean, I'm actually not worried about excusing it. I'm just confused as how everyone gets to bug guy from worms. Because it seems to be universal.
I don't know. I probably would have called him bug guy too, honestly. Like, if I met a man made out of maggoty worms, I would have been like, oh my god, bug guy.
Yeah.
It just has a better flow, too. Bug guy instead of worm guy.
Yeah.
I just looked it up according to, because I did found a debate online, which is, are worms considered bugs? So according to Wikipedia, a bug is either specifically an insect from the order Hempitera, known as the true bugs, or informally an insect, spider, or other small pest excluding rodents, including most arthropods, except marine crustaceans, including individuals or species of centipede, millipede, mite, ticks, woodlouse, and worms. So.
Right, I think
Okay.
it's colloquial, too. It's like, issue things are bugs, regardless of whether they're bugs or not. I don't think they're using bug as, like, genotyping. Yeah, they're just using bug as bugs.
Gross
Just gross shit. Like any small crawly thing is a bug.
Okay.
So,
I was just curious about the mechanism.
yeah,
Really.
I know.
And actually, even with that, that definition that I just read, I consider lobsters to be bugs.
Okay, I just consider them to be crustaceans and good to eat, but
they're basically the whale equivalent of cockroaches.
okay, you're right.
I love it.
But I won't eat cockroaches.
But
Okay, and so I just so going from the definition of bugs into some grammar stuff, whether slay or slew is correct. And Giles is correct. Both slayed and slew is correct. Yes. Slayed is more archaic.
Right.
And slew is modern. But it's being used more frequently now.
I was just about to say it's become back into because she's.
I've never used the word slew. I've always said slayed. But I'm a lifelong Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, so
I actually think part of the reason it's become much more in the modern parlance is because of Buffy the Vampire
Oh, absolutely.
No, definitely.
Absolutely.
And slew is more common in the UK.
Okay, I've used both. I know I've used both over the years, not knowing one was more archaic than the other, so I can't really claim that I love one more than the other. But yeah, slay. It's funny now because everyone's like, "Oh, she slayed on the runway or whatever."
Well, actually, slayed on the runway is completely different. Actually, you would never use slew in that case,
right?
But I mean, like,
but she slew her opponent on the runway.
She's okay. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you could use he slayed a dragon or she slew a dragon.
Right.
Either of those is correct. Meanwhile, she slayed. That's. You would never use she slew.
No.
So it's interesting. It's
very Giles to be like, no, both are correct.
Yeah, there are so many debates about it online, and it all comes from this fucking episode.
Well, I'm just gonna take Giles as his word because he's fucking Giles.
Right.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it makes me laugh that they obviously did some research on, but other things, no, not so much. It's funny to see where they actually made the point to do something, and I
wonder if they might have looked it up for this episode because one, it is a funny bit, and two, it's something that's obviously going to come up a lot in terms of the show because it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
It's pretty easy to grab an OED, Oxford English Dictionary, and just look up the word origins in slay and slew. That's not a lot of research. Yep. That's freaking just grabbing the dictionary. So, yeah.
No, it works.
And speaking of archaic, I'm going to jump back to the Dulac Cross for a minute.
Yeah.
Because what happened? Well, so when Giles gives the whole speech about the Dulac manuscript, he says that Dulac wrote it in archaic Latin, which was only understood by his sect. Now, A, that makes no sense. But B, if it's written in archaic Latin, a key would be useless.
Right, because it's
not a code. It's just a language that is not well remembered. So, sorry, this is one point where they just clearly made 87 mistakes.
Well, it's like the face of the moon. Is it a full moon or is it a new moon?
Right.
Oh yeah, that is totally a continuity together. That's a whole.
I mean, it's did they want the cross to be a decoder, or did they want it to be a Rosetta Stone, or I don't understand. And I mean, it seems considering the manuscript actually does it makes enough sense that Dalton is able to create actual words. That's why we get the whole thing of debase the beef the canoe or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it does create actual words. That's not how archaic Latin or Latin spoken by a specific sect would work. And it doesn't seem like a find and replace would work because that would just create,
Right.
So,
yeah.
It just that is just a black hole of illogic.
Yeah, we just need to climb out of this hole.
I was gonna say, to me, like, for the cross to be a Rosetta Stone would have made so much more sense and made it so much easier in the whole story than to worry about, like, cryptology and codes. And I mean, none of it makes sense anyway, but at least, like, oh yeah, the back of the cross is a Rosetta Stone. It gives you the key to, like, translating this, the end. Okay, move on. So.
Yeah, no, it just seems like they wanted to, just throw in a bunch of shit to see how it worked.
Yeah.
And somehow there was no, like, story editor to, like, go through this and, like, actually pick up this stuff. And like,
there never is. There never is. Like, there's so many plot holes and applied phlebotoms, and it's not internally consistent. This show is never internally consistent.
Okay, and do you know what? I know Buffy needs to be a regular teenage girl. But it seems like every fucking episode, Buffy is trying to fuck off of doing her work, leaving it to Willow and Xander to do, so that she can go out on a date or she can go to a party.
But she already made the date. It's not like she blew it off just to, like, maybe Angel will be there. They, like, made an actual set date.
Yes,
yeah, but I feel like, if there is one person on this planet who would understand.
I know. Sarah just wanted to ice skate.
Yeah, I know. And also, this is another thing that I have a problem with, but then this might be my Canadian coming out, but I don't understand why they had to go... okay, plot-wise, I understand why they had to go to a closed skating rink, but here in Canada, like, skating rinks are open until, like, 10 o'clock at night.
Actually, in New York, they are too. I mean, it depends on, like, usually on the weekends. I don't know about weekdays.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a skating rink that I, like, trained in when I was a kid. And they used to have, like, community or, like, they'd, like, play music or whatever. And people would go on dates, in the evening. So I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm in New Mexico, and I know that our skating rink stays open for stuff. Like, it's like the roller rink.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually... I can't even excuse it within the show because Angel, once we get over onto his own show, when Connor is born, he wants to teach Connor how to play hockey and he says specifically because the games are played at night and Angel will be able to go watch them.
They're not always at night, but whatever.
Well, yeah, but they're played indoors at least.
My nieces all play really competitive, like high level for teenagers hockey. Their shit is all the time. And mostly in the afternoon. Honestly, so their kids could not be hanging out at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, that's a debate for that episode, which I believe is possibly Sleep Tight.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, Angel's line is because the games are played indoors and usually at night. So
true. They are indoors.
Yeah, so I mean, like, the whole point is that rinks are open late, so I don't see why they have to go to one that's fucking closed.
Because Angel wants to be alone. They want to be alone.
Yes, but that's not like I know it's for plot contrivance and because they need to be all sweet and alone, but the thing is that's not what normal dates are like.
Yeah, but Angel doesn't know how to have a normal date.
Yeah.
Yeah, Angel and Buffy don't have a normal relationship.
You have to break into a fucking skating rink though. I mean, it's like, okay, you're taking your 16-year-old girlfriend out on a date, which is questionable enough. Right. But you're gonna have her break into a fucking skating rink. Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, from a practical standpoint, since she's going to be attacked by one of the Order of Taraka.
Yeah.
That having other people there would have made that scene a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I get that from, like, the story perspective, but...
Yeah, you're right. There's no... Again, that makes no sense.
I also want to know, is the guy that Buffy killed in the skating rink a demon or a human? Because...
See, this is something that I'm very confused by. Because the Order of Taraka, because Spike calls them, we kind of assume... At the beginning, it's like, oh, it must be a vampire cult of assassins.
It's not.
But it's not. They've got this guy who, I don't know what he is. He doesn't show any particular demonic power. He just looked like a kind of messed up guy.
Yeah, is he blind in one eye?
Like, yeah, but like they address it. Isn't it Giles that talks about how
Giles says some of them are human.
Some of them are human, some of them are demons, some of them are bad. Like, they're just this, like, mercenary...
They're this mixed bag.
They're this mercenary order, so...
Yeah, he's blind in one eye because if you remember the tarot card, actually it looks like a cyclops.
Yeah.
And you can sort of see it's weird because his face is all messed up, but he definitely had like a white contact on one side.
One of his eyes is
But nothing about his look actually suggests that he is anything but human. It's just like that he is scarred.
Yeah, he's like a creepy looking human.
Also, it's like Buffy. Buffy doesn't stake him. Buffy cuts his throat,
which is great, by the way.
Yes,
he bleeds red.
Yeah.
What? Did you actually see some blood?
I was just about to say he never bled, and it's like that's something that bothered me. She slashes his throat, and there's like nothing on the ice, no blood spurting in like a wonderful arc.
Okay,
nothing.
So what happened is they thought for primetime television.
Yeah.
What Marty originally wrote was like this. She calls it Fargo, Coen Brothers, like, blood on the ice. And they were like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing this. This is a primetime television show about teenagers. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of blood.
There's a little bit. There's a little bit of blood.
Entirely.
There's a little bit of blood. But again...
But it's very little.
At the very least, we can see that it's not like green acid blood.
Right,
that's true.
Like everything about this guy suggests that he's human. And...
Yeah. And I also want to note, the Order of Taraka, they must not take much for their work because apparently they travel by bus.
Well, I mean, I don't understand,
Like, I want to know how to get into the Order. Just, like, is there an application process? Do you need a resume? Like...
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously Spike is able to afford the Order of Taraka, and Spike doesn't seem like he actually has all that much money.
I think he just goes... I think he steals a lot of money. Like, I think it's just one of those things that we assume that Spike just steals shit.
Yeah, but I mean, like, later on, like, when he's, like, holed up in his crypt, he, doesn't, he steals money from Xander, and that's kind of it.
See, it's my headcanon that that Spike just robs places, or robs and mugs people.
Yeah, but Giles, when he's talking about the Order of Taraka, he's like, they have no earthly desires except to collect their bounty. Mm-hmm. A bounty is an earthly desire.
Yes.
It's like, okay, so, I mean, they're gonna get a bounty. It's like, so, I mean, they must have some sort of earthly desire if they want to collect this bounty so that they can, spend it on something.
Unless
weapons?
They all work for free and the bounty just goes to the Order as a whole.
But then why doesn't the Order get used way more? Like, is there, do they only hire themselves out to, I mean, they don't believe in the cause, or else they're not bounty hunters. Bounty hunters don't believe in, they're just hired.
Well, they're not described as bounty. I mean, Giles says they collect their bounty, but they're described more as assassins than bounty hunters.
It's a very fine line, I'd say. It's just because I'd say the line between bounty hunters and assassins is assassins kill the people, and bounty hunters
bring
people in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes assassins are actually religious cults, whereas bounty hunters are basically mercenaries who do it just to collect money. So...
Yeah, but I mean, I do feel like the Order of Taraka was supposed to be kind of a mercenary group that, it was basically just hired out by...
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Well, I think we've basically just hit another one of these, this episode isn't big on logic.
Right, and here's another one in this same scene, right? Angel's like, I don't want you to have to touch me when I'm like this. I'm like, this is the only time we see you not just immediately switching back and forth. Like, is it like he left himself in vamp face for too long and it got stuck there, like our moms told us not to do when we made dumb faces?
Yeah. Didn't his mom tell him about that?
I was like, did I miss something? Why is he still in vamp face? I thought they face back right away, but...
Right, they can. Yeah. They can do it at will. It's like an on-off switch. And so the minute he was
Again,
done...
I bring up Connor. There's a scene when he's taking care of baby Connor, and he literally switches back and forth between vamp
because he's entertaining him. Like, Connor thinks it's really cute. It's like one of those things where you play... He's basically playing peekaboo with his baby, but with vamp face, not vamp face.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, like, they do, like, the vamp face does come up with the adrenaline, because, I mean, like, that's the whole reason why Angel's vamp face comes up when he's kissing Buffy the first time.
Right,
and I mean, it is totally a contrivance so that Kendra will see them. But
yeah, I know.
I am getting
pisses me off.
I'm getting really sick of saying, "Oh, this is a plot contrivance, so this can happen." I don't like stories that do that.
Right, and it just, in this case, it was like very Beauty and the Beast, just to be able to say, see, Buffy is so deep that she loves him for who he is and not what he looks like. And it's like, yeah, but usually he's a pretty good looking guy, and she knows this is temporary. It's not like, oh my god, something happened and I'm stuck like this as a monster for the rest of my life. It's like,
I wonder if she'd be willing to kiss him when he got that Pylea vampire face going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, if you're going to be angry about plot contrivances, you're going to spend pretty much the rest of this podcast, like, not this episode, but this entire podcast being angry.
My entire life is being angry at TV shows.
Yeah,
about
no,
plot
me
contrivances.
too. I just, yeah. This,
well,
I mean,
here.
I get mad at reality shows and their plot contrivances, and I'm like, it's a fucking reality show.
Right? But yeah, no, it's internal logic, and I don't like it either. But yeah. Oh, I do love Buffy's line. He shows her the ring, and she's like, "I just killed a Super Bowl champ." That's a good one, right? Like, I'm gonna bring out a positive. That's kind of what I do. I'm like, right. But this thing was really great. Like, I think that's my point. David nitpicks.
The dialogue in this, like, I ignore the logic because the character stuff and the logic.
Yeah, the characters and the lines are really good.
On point.
And I think it's really cute that Sarah got to do the figure skating.
I mean,
yes.
And I don't think
I do love that.
They didn't. I was really looking at that scene very well. I don't think they really did a lot of doubling.
Oh no, Marty says the skating's all Sarah.
Yeah, it's all Sarah. So that's cute.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they really taxed her that much.
No,
it was
nothing
fun
complex
figure skating.
there.
Yeah,
and I think it also like gives you another side to Buffy. You just get like a moment of like Buffy being like completely calm and completely happy, which we don't see a lot. So it's actually a really beautiful moment on that.
Yeah, it's a really great moment. Yeah, I think she's a normal 16-year-old girl who's pretty good at skating, but is not an Olympic whatever.
No,
but yeah, she's
And also, I just like that they introduced something that Buffy likes.
Yeah, right.
That's outside of, like, the shoes and everything that she's into. Because, I mean, they always play with, like, the bubbly, SoCal girl. But this is, like, an actual thing that she is interested in. And it's something that does carry through, because they will bring it up again in Helpless, where she goes to the Ice Capades every year. And she wants to go with Giles. And tear.
Right, I know. I'll have lots to say when we get there. But
probably get to that. First, after we get into the explanation of the Order of Taraka, which we've already been kind of harping on, we get like the little scene where Buffy is wandering the halls, and I'm bringing this up because I love Oz, but I actually this is the first time Buffy and Oz meets, and I want to mention it just because I love Buffy and Oz's low-key friendship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that's never really gotten into, but just the few scenes we have with them together, I really like their chemistry, and it's probably because Sarah and Seth are good friends.
And they're still really good friends. Like, they're been
really
doing
good friends.
Voice work for him for years, so like...
Yeah, I was going to say, I know she shows up on Robot Chicken and stuff. Yeah, well, it seems like everybody loves Seth as a human being, and he just like, makes all these friends and forever and ever, and I love that about him. And and Oz just has chemistry with everybody, I think. Oz is just Oz.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the reaction is so great. That is a tense person.
And I also really like this scene in general, because I like the fact that she's suddenly like so paranoid, and she's looking at everywhere, and she cannot trust anybody anywhere. I mean, part of my brain is like, well, why isn't she with like the people she does trust, is like to have her back? But despite that, it just like the whole paranoia and the way it's shot, it's actually really beautifully done, and you kind of feel like the tension there, and then you get the little comic relief. So.
Yeah, and then we get into the scene that introduces Willie into the Buffyverse.
Right, I found that scene to be very proto-Angel. It's very the way that Angel is speaking to him is very noir. It's very first season Angel, the way he's like going at it. So I thought that was a really great preview of what we're going to see from Angel when he's on his own television show.
Yeah, having not watched a lot of Angel yet, it kind of was like, I was wondering, like, is this where they suddenly said, well, you know, if we're going to give him a spin-off, we have to make him like a noir detective? Because it does. You just suddenly, I was like, this feels like what I know about Angel. And is this like foreshadowing, or is this just like happenstance that worked really well? So they're like, okay, this is the direction we're going to go in.
Yeah. I legit have the note. I feel this scene at Willie's is basically the plot of the pilot of Angel.
Yeah, no, for sure. I have basically the same note. So I like Willie.
Yeah.
I think he's a great character, and I really wish the actor had been able to. They'd been able to incorporate him in later seasons. I think it just even in a small way. And I know
he makes a couple of appearances. I believe his last one is in season 4.
Oh, he's definitely in season 4, but the actor ended up on that show with Ted Danson that was in a bar.
Right, yeah.
And so I don't think
Becker?
he was... Becker.
Saviero Guerrero,
Right.
I believe.
He ended up on that, and so they didn't... But I thought Willie, like, even when they're packing up Sunnydale to, like, leave, you know, in season 7, it would have been an interesting... But the actor wasn't available, so...
Yeah.
You lose him.
My other note about it, just because we were talking about noir, was also like, this is really noirish and down to the Brooklyn accent, because it's like, Willie is like, we're in California, and this guy is like so kind of like stereotypical New York noir, you know, bar guy, which I thought was really funny, and it was a nice touch.
And his name is Willie the Snitch. I mean,
right.
come on.
No, it's great. It's very noir. And I like the way that scene is written, and it has a really great homage to noir. So, and we'll talk a little about Willie in the next episode, but I think that that really it's an interesting contrast to Xander and Cordy, which is pretty much the thing that's coming up next.
Right.
I mean, there's a little bit of Giles in there with some exposition, which Tony always does amazingly. Like Tony makes exposition sound really interesting when it's not.
Yeah.
But
we do have Xander and Cordelia, and it's the Scooby Gang is actually mentioned.
It's the first time they call them the Scooby Gang.
Yay!
And I love that. But in contrast to that noir scene, I think it's really interesting because the way the dialogue for Cordy and Xander plays a lot of the time, and I think Marty really gets the dialogue between them really well. It all sounds like it's an homage to screwball comedies from the 1930s.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's very Howard Hawks. It's very Preston Sturges.
Yep, very.
I love it.
Tracy Hepburn or Cary Grant, whoever. Yeah, no, I got the same feeling.
Yeah, I was specifically thinking of I'm a huge fan of Preston Sturges, who directed The Lady Eve and Sullivan's Travels, and it got that the pace of it is really, I love it. Like, I love what they do with the two of them in their dialogue, so.
Yeah, and one of my notes in there is just like, even though it's like telegraphing that, oh, they're fighting and therefore they're going to be like snogging like any minute, when it happens, it's great. I mean, just the scene works really well.
Oh, yeah.
You know where it's going.
And they don't snog until the next episode, do they?
Yeah. No, it's the next episode.
Okay, so we'll talk about the snog in a little while.
Sorry.
But even just walking up the sidewalk to break into Buffy's house, like, it's really rapid fire. I just think, and it's really both in their voices. Again, Marty nails these characters' voices.
And I love this build. Like, I mean, even though like the kiss happens very suddenly, they have been building up Xander and Cordelia as a couple basically since episode 2, I believe.
Yeah,
like,
since
they really start to amp it up. So I feel like when it actually got to this point, it's like we were all just kind of waiting for it because we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But it works so well; they just crackle on screen.
Oh, so great. But the music cue and we'll get there next episode, but.
I made a note that when they're looking at their results from the tests, I note that, Cordy actually bothers looking at Xander's.
I know.
And it's like, and she makes fun of him, but I could have easily seen her just looking at hers and then just walking away, but she doesn't.
Right, and it's the pretext that she's going to make fun of him, but.
Right, and she doesn't look at anybody else's either.
It's this tiny precursor of this. This is a slow build over these 2 episodes to that, and I think that works really well.
I do too.
And in retrospect, you see how it builds as we go on. I do have to question those. Like, why does Giles tell Xander to have Cordy give him a ride? Don't Buffy and Willow and Xander go over to each other's houses all the time without getting a ride?
Yeah.
So that's a little.
But we don't hear Xander's side of that conversation. It's Giles going, yeah, Xander, just do what you need to do to get the fuck over there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a setup for later where they just so they can get into the car and peel out after all the stuff happens. So.
But we're kind of to the end of this episode now, where we get Buffy and Kendra facing off against each other, I think we will leave the bulk of this to the next episode. Because
I did want to talk about the reveal.
We have to talk about the reveal.
Emcee, did you know?
I had no clue.
I had no clue either, and I was so I was like screaming at my TV because I didn't get to check websites. Like, I love to engage in Buffy stuff, but I was still in a dorm. We didn't have personal computers and internet access in our dorms at the time. So if I wanted to do anything with like going on the internet to look up Buffy stuff, I had to go to the computer lab while I was checking my email or like on a break from writing a paper. So I had no clue. It was a huge deal.
Yeah, and I think back in the day in season 2, we still weren't getting all that many spoilers.
No,
it
we
really
still
wasn't
weren't,
until like maybe season 5.
Season 4
and 5 that we were really starting to kick into gear on spoilers. So you would have some like, I remember hearing a rumor that Oz was a werewolf. That was like the. I knew that was a rumor that was going around. But, I mean, back in those days, we didn't even call them spoilers. We called them rumors.
True.
But,
yeah, they were called rumors. Yeah.
I did not hear anything about there being another Slayer, and it was a huge shock at the end of this episode when she said she's the vampire Slayer. And, like, throughout this episode, I mean, they don't play their hand at all. I mean, they do actually set up that she is, sinister.
Yeah.
And they did it fairly well.
Oh, it's a genius reveal.
The only thing that kind of gives something away, because I think they at first set it up to make it look like she's part of the Order of Taraka, but then she goes after Angel, which the Order of Taraka has no reason to do.
But we don't really know who she's going after. Well, I guess I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it still works. It's just in retrospect, I'm like, I think that may have been a misstep. Mm-hmm. But it's a misstep that you can gloss over,
right? And I think in between this week and the next week, because you had to wait a whole week on this, I sort of marinated into my head, and I was like, wait, Buffy died. She probably really is a Slayer.
Yeah.
Like, I marinated that in my head and sort of like, but the first moment that it was happened, I was like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it was a great reveal.
Yeah, and this is also, I believe, one of the few times in Buffy that a two-parter was actually a week apart.
Yes, that is true.
Because with Surprise and Innocence, they were a day apart. They did it Monday night, and then they did the that's when they switched Buffy to Tuesday.
Right, that was their big thing about Buffy switching nights. But so this, you actually had a week apart.
Yeah, and Bargaining, they did as like a 2-hour movie. And I believe even for the end of that season, when you got
there was a week between Becoming Part 1 and Becoming Part 2.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
There was, because I finished finals and was unpacking my dorm and watched Becoming Part 1. But I did not get to watch Becoming Part 2 for 3 months because I was on the road driving back to Albuquerque from college. And my parents didn't have cable. So it took me 3 months to be able to see Becoming Part 2. And it drove me the fuck crazy.
Oh, yeah, and fuck, I forgot about Graduation Day as well. Because that same thing happened with Graduation Day too, at least for people who
True, yeah. Well, you got to see it, but...
I got to see it. I sent out that episode.
Yeah, I know. I wish I'd known you then. But yeah, in terms of all-time great reveals, this is a great reveal.
This is a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when I saw it, because I saw it on FX, so I didn't have to wait. I think it was either the same day or the next day, because that was when they were doing it stripped. Yeah. I actually didn't know about the other Slayers yet, because remember, I was watching season 6, and we didn't get the other Slayers till season 7, so I was pretty surprised about that. Yeah. And I didn't know about Faith either, so I was like, what?
Yeah, because in season 6, Faith was she was in jail. Yeah, she had to make the show switch first, because she ended up on Angel, so she was on prison on Angel. Yeah, which is why they don't reference her.
But yeah, no, it was such a great reveal, which we may not have gotten today. Like, there may have been so many rumors, and it's not just they were rumors. Then now it's called not spoilers; it's speculation.
Right,
right. Like they give a picture of the person being cast. People just sit on Reddit talking about theories and who it could be. So it may not have been as big of a reveal, but I know at the time I was stunned.
Right. And along with that, you'd have somebody who's like, well, we were on set and somebody let me know that she's playing another Slayer and da-da-da-da. So even if people didn't believe it...
It was a more innocent time.
Well, yeah, there was less ability to share this information, even if
right, because the internet was there, but it wasn't the thing it is now.
Right, exactly.
And I mean, even through the Buffy the show, we will see the evolution of how spoilers and speculation change.
Totally,
because like I said, by seasons 4 and 5, people were,
and definitely by 7.
Oh yeah, definitely.
7 was half spoiled.
Oh, we've linked to Spoiler Slayer before.
Yeah,
and
we have.
Even when we got to Graduation Day, part 2, when Faith has that whole dream sequence thing, and she, counting down from 730 or whatever it is, 720. I can't remember the.
Oh, people had theories and wrote about that.
People were already suspecting that it was Buffy was going to die at the end of season 5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that wasn't really a spoiler. That was people talking about Westworld and what was happening. That was more fun than the actual show. As people's insano theories. Some of them that turned out to be true. Some of them that were just insano theories. So, that, I think that was just, people really reasoning out the theory. But in other cases, yeah, there was total spoilers.
Yeah, I think by the time I was watching it, I was reading Spoiler Slayer, pretty regularly. So I kind of knew what was going on. And speculation or whatever was happening in the future, as well as trying to catch up on what had happened the previous 5 seasons. So, yeah.
I actually have a challenge to anyone out there who writes Buffy fanfic, or anybody out there who wants to write Buffy fanfic. Go to Spoiler Slayer and look up all of the false rumors.
Oh,
and
that'd be
go
amazing.
write a fanfic,
based
for that. On those false rumors, because actually some of them are so ridiculously different than the actual episode.
Yeah,
and I think they would actually be kind of cool stories.
Yeah, that would be great.
I mean, I used to run, or I still run, a Harry Potter fanfic thing, and we had right before the last book came out. I know we gathered up all the fake spoilers and made up a bunch, and that was actually the prompt for the month that it was. It was write a story based on this bit of information, true or not, and we got some great stuff. So it's always fun to kind of go what didn't happen?
We're at the end of the episode. We've got the big reveal. Can I say final thoughts this time?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Final thoughts?
I'm still wondering how people know where Angel lives.
Yeah,
but other than that,
he's got a GPS chip in his head.
He's low.
I'm almost wondering if we should maybe keep the final thoughts till next week, because
I have some final thoughts about this particular episode. And it's not a big final thought. It's more this is very obviously part 1 of 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Because a lot of it is set up, where we'll get the payoff later. So
I think it's dun dun dun. What's going to happen next? Tune in tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There are a lot of firsts in this episode, but yeah, it's definitely an episode meant to propel you to, the second part of the full story. So
yeah.
Oh, and I did notice one other thing. It's a minor thing, but I don't know, it'll sort of come to fruition later. We get our first indication that Willow's parents are kind of detached and don't really notice Willow a whole lot, because Willow falls asleep in the library all night, doesn't come home, and did they call the cops? Did they notice she wasn't home? We have no idea. There's no indication of anything.
I would like to know when the janitor comes in and cleans the library.
It's possible something may have happened in the library that has scared him off.
I mean, it is John Hawkes. Is that his name? He's an actor. He's an actor that's been nominated for an Academy Award, and he ends up playing the janitor in the episode we'll see later in the season.
Yeah.
Is he, not cleaning? I don't know.
Or maybe Giles pays him off not to, don't come in here. It's like, he puts the do not disturb sign on the door. Look, I'll pay you not to, clean this. You can just tell everybody you did your work. I'll clean it myself. It's okay. I'm just that OCD. Bye.
Yeah.
Maybe the janitor is part of the Watchers Council as well, and that's why all of the shit that happens at Sunnydale High doesn't
That's
get
it.
reported.
Now I want a fanfic
like
the perspective of the janitor.
New headcanon.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely an episode that brings, it's the first part of a story.
Yeah.
So we'll save the rest of it for next week.
Okay.
I believe that is it for this week. And obviously next week we'll be talking about What's My Line Part 2. So until then, grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
Grr, arg!
Hey y'all, it's Andie. We'd like to thank everyone who downloaded the podcast, and an extra special thanks to everyone who shared, liked, and subscribed on social media. We would love to hear from you, and so if you have any comments or questions you'd like read on the show, you can contact us on our website, returntothehellmouth.com, on YouTube, Tumblr, and Facebook at Return to the Hellmouth, on Twitter at HellmouthReturn, or on our email at returntothehellmouth@gmail.com. Again, we love to hear from you and read those comments and questions on the show. Don't forget to rate our show on iTunes and Stitcher, and we'll see you on Tuesday for What's My Line Part 2.
Grr, arg.